Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I saw something recently that's been sitting with me. It was a post. It asked whether your parents ever wonder what they did wrong, whether they wish you were more proud of them, or whether they miss their own parents. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not because it made me angry, but because it made me quiet, almost curious. Growing up, my parents weren't really there in the ways that mattered. They weren't completely absent, but, they just weren't all present. And when you're a kid, you don't really question that. You just kind of adapt. It's only later that you start asking questions, not out of blame, just trying to understand what shaped you. And I don't have answers, but I just have a lot of thoughts that didn't have anywhere to go until now. Now, first, I want to start out with talking about absence versus abandonment. They weren't always gone, but they weren't really always there. Being there physically does not mean they were there emotionally or mentally for us. My mom, she was there physically in a decent amount, but she was not ever mentally there. She was a big drunk, and a lot of nights we didn't really have dinner because she wouldn't be awake to cook for us because she'd be passed out, which ties into the emotional part as well because she wasn't there to help us. Now, my dad, he was there physically, kind of. My parents got divorced, so he moved away, but he was there physically when he could be. But he was always there for us emotionally and mentally. So it was kind of a split, but parents were supposed to be two halves of a whole, and they were just two halves that didn't really ever make a whole. The absence, it can be subtle, and when it's subtle, it becomes normalized, especially at a young age. And at that age, it becomes easy to minimize as well. Because a lot of this stuff normally hits later in life. Like as a kid, you don't know what you're missing out on. I didn't really understand it until I started going over to my friends' houses in high school and college and stuff like that, and seeing two happy parents cooperate and raise a household. Like I just assumed that most families were like ours or like mine. Like family dinners weren't really a thing for me. I would always get my dinner from like one of my siblings and then go eat in my room by myself. The only time we ever really did anything family wise was birthdays or holidays, and even then it was a maybe. I kind of became almost envious of my friends' families and the way they were structured. So when I was over at my friends' houses and stuff like this happened, I would get quiet or jealous and think about it for a while. This understanding really came later, like recently in life. So I also wanted to talk about the questions from the post I saw. So number one was wondering if your mom ever questioned what went wrong. Sometimes I do think about that because there's a quote that I like to reference in terms of my parents, and it's their first time living too. So I think about that, and I still just don't understand how they went so wrong. Like I feel like if I had a kid, even at my young age right now, there's no way I would ever end up like my parents did. I'm not trying to answer these questions right now, but I do want to react to them at least. Like me and my mom are not very close right now, and whenever we do have like a phone call, it's a very dull and dry phone call. And sometimes when I hang up, I do feel guilt, as in like I didn't react or talk to her in a way that I should be, and or I'm not talking out of love. I'm kind of just talking out of convenience. And sometimes I do feel kind of bad, but there's only so much I can give and take, emotionally. The second question was wondering if your dad wanted to be seen differently by you. I mean, my dad, he's been a great like guy. He's not a great role model by any means, but he's been a great dad. I don't think that my dad would ever want to be seen differently because he is unapologetically him, and he never changes for anyone. He works and he works and he works, and then he comes home and then he relaxes. And that's my dad. But another thing I do wonder, and it was another question in the post, was if they ever wonder if they were repeating something that they never healed from. It's hard to tie in trauma to your parents, but in terms of my mom, I can see it. Her mom, so my grandma, was apparently a very aggressive, abusive woman. So my mom ended up kind of crazy because of that. I do understand her trauma, and I can't understand how she has trauma. My dad, he was a wild child, so I don't really see anything that he could possibly heal from besides being married to my mom because they were in such an unstable relationship that didn't really work out very well for them. But in terms of abusive and aggressive violence, stuff like that, my mom was never like that. She was more verbal. She was very demeaning, and she's very I don't know what the word is, but she guilt trips a lot. She's not happy when she doesn't get her way, especially in terms of us, like her kids. I'm not trying to blame them for anything, but these are points I wanted to bring up and that I was curious about. If you guys have any comments about stuff like this, please be sure to leave it below. Very open to hearing about all you guys. The part that I kind of take away from all this is that I gained an independence of I don't know, I kind of just gained an independence way too early. I rely on myself, but at the same time I rely on my siblings. I rely on my siblings for more material things, but I rely on myself for a lot of emotional stuff. Like, I don't bring up emotional stuff unless it's brought up. I've always struggled to ask for help, whether that be in school or, therapy, stuff like that, mental health problems. It's always been a big struggle for me. School was a big part of it because I never wanted to seem dumb, so I never really spoke out. If I was struggling, I kind of just waited for the teacher to reach out to me. And that's why my school life has kind of fell down. I've always felt uncomfortable, like, needing someone, being codependent on someone. I've never really felt like that was who I was. I've always relied on myself. So leaning on someone else to answer a problem that I have seemed kind of selfish. So I was like, let me just keep it all to myself and then figure it out as I go. I always felt kind of guilty for wanting more out of something or someone. So another thing that I kind of picked up from all that was that I grew up pretty angry. I grew up a very, very angry kid, and it was explosive anger, like fighting and getting in altercations at basketball tournaments, football games, and school stuff like that. But I went into it's called experimental behavioral modifications, and I was in that for 7 years. Like, it was a long time, like elementary through middle school, and it kind of build out that explosive anger and kind of turned it into internalized anger, the stuff that I kind of just ball up, which is arguably worse. There's always that background frustration to things. Like, a big trigger for my anger is when people repeat themselves a lot. My mom, whenever she would try and get a point across, she would repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat until it for some reason she thinks it did something different. And so now that I'm older, I get very triggered when people repeat stuff to me, or when they try and they think I'm dumb, so they keep repeating it. So it's always been something that has just been, yeah, it's a big trigger. That's all I'm gonna say on that. In terms of my parents, though, it was always more confusion than rage towards them. Like, mixing anger with empathy is very complicated. I try to feel bad for her, but I just can't. She was not good to me or us or any all. I have five. There's five siblings, including me. So it was like, why couldn't you be there for just one of us? You had five chances. Why did you have five if you couldn't handle it? But that's just being unfair. Later on in life, you realize your parents had inner lives that you never saw or heard about or anything like that. And, they were kids too at one point, and they were living for the first time as well, just like we are. I'm sure they still ask themselves questions just like I am right now. Like, I want to see my parents as people, or I want to see them for who they are and not just what they are as my parents. I don't really know how to feel about stuff like this. I don't have anyone else to talk to. None of my friends have a upbringing like I did. They don't have a parental situation like I do. But, I'm not trying to rewrite the past or anything. I'm just trying to understand it. I don't really think this video is about blaming them, and I don't think it's about forgiving them either. I think it's just me noticing the space they left and how much my life grew around it. I don't really know what to do with that yet. I just didn't want to keep pretending it wasn't there. I don't know if they ever asked themselves these questions that I asked today, and I don't know if I'd even know how to answer them if they did. Just where my thoughts landed on tonight. I don't really have a takeaway, just needed to say it out loud. It was more just some thoughts about my parents, why I ended up the way I did, noticing what wasn't there. You know, no conclusions, just reflection. That's about it. I guess another reason that I recorded this was because I am feeling a little bit guilty as well, though. My mom has been getting sick recently, and a lot more. Like, her back's been giving out, and she's been just having like her immune system has been messing up. And I notice her getting older and looking more and more like my grandma every day, who has passed already. And I don't know. I don't want to feel guilty for the way I treated her because I'm treating her the way I feel she deserves. But at the same time, it's like, you only get one mom. Why wouldn't I treat her well, you know? Again, I'm not trying to come to any conclusions. I just get this out into the universe again, just like last video. If you're coming back from last video, thank you. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope you enjoy hearing what I have to say. Well, I mean, not enjoying it, but you know what I mean. And again, if you know, resonate with what I'm saying and you understand, leave a comment. I love seeing people who know what I'm going through. But yeah, been liminal, guys.